We're all good? Feeling festive? Are you excited? I am. Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the Knitting Pickle podcast. Yay! My name is Laura of Penrose Knits. I'm a knitter, a knitwear designer, content creator, and I am here with a traditional format podcast for you today, and I am well excited. Can you tell? First of all, welcome if this is your first time. You've chosen a good one. I'm in a good mood. I'm feeling excited. I've got lots to share with you today. And if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. As always, a big, big cuddle to you. Pleasure to have you here. It is the penultimate week of November, and you might be able to tell that I'm already feeling festive. Vlogmas starts in 1 week. 1 week until Vlogmas. This time next week, I'll be Vlogmasing. I'm so excited. So I really wanted to get one more traditional format podcast out to you before Vlogmas, because it will be the last one of the year. Thank you to everyone who left a lovely comment on episode 22.5. It was a bit of a different kind of podcasting format for me, just to kind of fit in with where I was in life at the time when I filmed it. So thank you for accommodating that, and I'm so glad you all enjoyed it. I really enjoyed making it. I also really enjoy doing traditional format podcasts. I've just got to be in the right mood, and I am in the right mood. It's been an intense couple of weeks. I'm not going to go into the deets right now. If you're curious, then you could watch my previous podcast or my previous vlog where I explain a little bit more. It's just been a couple of tough weeks. I had some teeth removed, which was horrific and took me a long time to recover from, physically and mentally. Then my son got poorly, then my daughter got poorly, and then I got poorly, and my husband got poorly, and it's just been like one after the other after the other. I am also feeling like a bit of a cold coming on, so I want to get this done now. I was thinking about doing it at the weekend, but I don't want to risk it because I'm all right at the moment, but when I go to bed I feel like the congestion and the headache and all that kind of stuff, so I know it's coming. Hello, Editing Laura here. I massively underestimated how much of a cold I had yesterday, and I have spent most of the morning editing out some sniffs. So if you are adverse to a sniff, you might want to miss this one, because I wasn't able to cut them all out, but I did do my best. Hello, baby girl. It's
my flower.
Oh, beautiful. Hey, Asta. It's unfortunately just what happens this time of year, so I do apologise for the sniffing. But on with the show.
Look on your head.
I've had a lovely morning. I went and sat in on my son's maths lesson today, which was really, really cute. Like, I got to see what they do in their maths lessons, how they're teaching him. Got to go around his classroom with him and do some maths games, and it was so, so nice. And then I hit up the bakery afterwards, had some breakfast, and now I'm all settled down. I need to apologise to everybody who I well and truly freaked out with the candle. Last time I was in this spot, I think I had a candle lit up here or something, and honestly it just didn't cross my mind that it was like an issue. And then when I was editing, I was like, oh god, that candle next to that yarn. What were you thinking, Laura? So I'm sorry to everybody I freaked out about that. I won't do it again, and I've got some little twinklies to kind of give a festive-y atmosphere. The light is in and out today. I have fashioned some ridiculous kind of sunshade in my big door here that's in front of me here. So we've got some funny shadows, but I'm thinking we're quite even. It's a cloudy day, but it's still quite bright, so it's unpredictable, but the sun has now moved past the door, so we should be level for now. I've got a coffee from the bakery. I've got to be careful though, because I don't want to smudge my lipstick, my festive lipstick. And I'm just going to go straight into it. There will be some more like nitty life chat at the end, but we're going to go straight into the projects because I've got quite a lot to show you. For someone who lost their knitting mojo, I've actually been very productive. First of all, I'm going to talk about what I'm wearing. If you are a viewer, you will know what this is. This is one of my patterns. This is the Chantilly vest. There's also a cardigan version, and this is knit with Phil Kalana Saga held double, and then another strand of mohair with it. It's got this beautiful oversized ruffled collar, and my favourite way to wear this is over a polo. It's just perfection for me. I've got my gym leggings on underneath, you know, it's party up the top, practical on the bottom. But I've got a little cord, oh god, fairy lights. I've got a little cord mini skirt or jeans, or that's kind of how I tend to wear it. This pattern has not been released yet. However, it's very, very soon. Today is the day I should get my final approval from my editor. I've made the final document, I've done all the kind of stuff. I just need to make sure that it's all like grammatically and visually correct, and then it will be ready. I do need to still go through a few of my tester feedbacks just to confirm some yardages. But by the time this goes live, I'm filming on a Thursday. It's probably going to go live Friday or Saturday. Either the Chantilly vest pattern will be available, or I would have shared the release date, which will be soon. It will be next week at some point at the latest. So thank you for your patience with this design. The test actually finished quite a while ago, but as I mentioned, it's been a tough few weeks and I've just not been in the headspace to do it. However, oh, that's a cool aeroplane. I have hit a bit of a manic phase. I don't get manic very often, but when I do, I like absolutely make the most of it. I tell you, I'm up to date on my washing. That never happens. The house is tidy apart from in here, and it's about to get a lot worse. And I'm feeling productive, I'm feeling motivated, I'm doing stuff on my laptop every day. I'm enjoying the manic phase because they're rare and they don't last that long. So the Chantilly vest will be with you very, very soon. That's what I am wearing. You can also go and have a look on the hashtag on Instagram if you want to see all my wonderful testers examples. There's some amazing colours. We've got quite a few people did a mohair ruffle instead of the fingering weight ruffle. Instructions for both options are all in the pattern, and there's lots of different fits and sizes and outfit ideas and all that kind of stuff, so please feel free to go check it out and give them a little like, show them some love because they are amazing. So we should go straight into finished objects. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 finished objects. But it's not actually 11 because a lot of them are repeats. I'm going to start with my oldest and work up to my newest, and probably the one I'm most excited to have off the needles is I finished my child's Aosta. Now I was silly and left it on a radiator, and you can you see it on camera? There's like a line here and a line here. And it was basically nearly dry and I just wanted to finish it off, but I forgot about it. So yes, it has got a couple of creases in it. But this is the Child's Aosta. It is by wonderful Sophie of the Knit Pearl Girl. You can get adult versions, there's mohair versions, there's a flat seamed version, and in the round version she's just updated the adult version, I think, to include more sizes and short row shaping and just a kind of general update. And there's the baby Aosta cardigan. There's basically the whole world of Aostas, and this is a child's one which is due to be released very, very, very soon. I have made this in We Are Knitters Affinity yarn, which I held triple, and it is 70% merino, 30% baby alpaca. I chose this yarn because I had it in stash, wanted to use it, love the colour, and I hoped it would be soft enough for my fussy little boy, but he has already said, no mummy, it's too itchy. Which, you know, I'm not going to force him to wear something that he doesn't feel comfortable in. But fortunately I have a daughter who is smaller than him. So even though this will be slightly too big for her, I have done the sleeves to her length rather than what I would have done for my son. And I added an inch on just so it's got a little bit of longevity. And then the length should be fine for her for a long time. I can imagine her in it now, actually oversized with some like black leggings, and it's all like almost like a dress with like little poofy sleeves, and I'm so excited. It's so soft, the texture is lovely. It's called Andalusian stitch and it's so effective. 75% stock in it, and then one row every now and then of the texture, so super satisfying. It's definitely got that like one more like repeat vibe to it, you know. And the sleeves, I did, each sleeve took an evening. Now this has been sat, I'm gonna hang it up because my arm's getting tired. Can you see it there? Hey! This was set on hold for quite a while, and I actually missed the testing deadline, though I did speak to Sophie about this beforehand, and she said it's going to be a little while till it's released, so take your time, thank Lord. But when I was not feeling great in general, I completely lost my garment mojo, and you'll see how I dealt with that shortly. So this was sat with the cuff of one sleeve and the entirety of the second sleeve not done for ages, like at least 2 weeks, just sat there, and my brain just couldn't, I just couldn't go there. Like I couldn't be like picking up sleeve stitches, finding the right needle, decreasing, cuff, pattern, and like anything. It just all felt too complicated. I do have another jumper which I will briefly show you, but I've not actually done anything on it. But my brain capacity for garments was just gone, and this sat that way until literally not yesterday, the day before, where I suddenly felt the urge to just pick it up. And you know what? I finished it in the evening. One sleeve took me well, it was slightly more than an evening maybe. I started it like late afternoon, did the tea, put the kids to bed, and then had my tea and then finished it off. But it was so quick. This is the size 3, which is recommended for a 5-year-old, no, for a 4-year-old. My son is 5, my daughter is 3, but I went by the measurements and it came up that this was the right size for him. And I checked my gauge and my measurements, and I am slightly under, I'm about 2 centimetres underneath, and I think that's because my gauge was ever so slightly off. I wouldn't recommend using this yarn held triple for this project, even though it's absolutely fine, it looks gorgeous. It was definitely too, my fabric is quite dense, and I don't personally mind that, because for children's clothes that's quite a good thing. It's going to be super warm for Penny, and I've got a feeling she's going to wear it to nursery quite a lot, because her nursery is, they're outside as much as physically possible, you know, unless it's like torrential rain or really cold. They have a forest school, they have an outdoor classroom, they're outside as much as possible. So this will be great underneath her little puddle suit to keep her cozy warm, or if we're going on walks in the winter. And even though the fabric is quite thick, because it's alpaca, it's got that alpaca content, it's still quite drapey and floaty and nice to wear. The recommended yarn for this pattern is blown yarn. And I didn't have, well actually I did have some blown yarn in stash, but not a colour that my son and my daughter would both happily wear. And I can see why now Sophie went for that blown yarn, because it would make such a nice light but cosy jumper for a child. I have got some pink drops air, and it is making me want to use it for something for Penny now. So yes, I wouldn't recommend this yarn for this project, but it is super nice and super soft. I've got loads of it left. I originally had, oh by the way, this yarn was sent to me by We Are Knitters to try. I wasn't asked to recommend it or anything like that, they just sent it me to have a little go. And I've got, this is like 30 grams. And these balls are like, I think these balls are 100 grams each. It doesn't look it. I assumed that they were 50, but yes, they're 100 grams. Quite, you know, compact, and it's 400 meters per 100 grams. So it's a fingering weight yarn. And I've got a little 30-gram ball there. And what I might do is use what I've got left for some accessories, maybe a hat. I do feel like it's probably going to pill a lot, and it's not super wash, so it is hand wash only, but I think it would be really nice on the old noggin. And I would, oh, and I've also got 2 balls of it in like a beige colour, so it might be nice to do like use it as a DK weight and maybe make something like Fair Isle or Colorwork for Penny in it. But I'm getting a bit tangenty there. So yes, that is my Charles Aosta, all done, all finished. I really wanted to put Penny in it today because she's at nursery today, but I obviously wanted to show it to you. So what I'll hopefully do is I'll put her in it tomorrow and get some footage of her in it to show you, which I'll probably have already inserted. So that's my first finished object. My next finished object I did show you on my last podcast, and you will know this one. You will have seen it a million times. Yes, I jumped on the bandwagon. Yes, I'm really glad I did. I made the Sophie shawl. It's a little bit creased because it's been in my cupboard, but I made the Sophie shawl by Petite Knit, and I am very glad that I did, because it was a pleasure to knit and it's a pleasure to wear. So I cast this on when I was recovering from my tooth extraction actually, and I was like physically and mentally in quite a lot of pain, and I just needed something really simple and mindless, kind of that quick gratification type thing. And I was ever so kindly, let me grab one. Ooh. I was extremely generously sent some of this stunning yarn. This is the Lamana Como Grande. No, it's not. It's the Lamana Como Tweed. And this was sent to me by my dear sweet friend Simona from knit.co.uk, who has just opened her real life shop. Oh my god, I'm so happy for her. Like, you don't even know how long this has been in the works for Simona and how difficult it's been for her to get to this point. Honestly, how she does it with the kids, with the dog, with everything, she's just incredible. I was actually meant to go down to the shop opening on the Friday with Sophie of the Knit Pearl Girl. I sorted the childcare. I hadn't booked my train tickets yet, thank god. I was going to buy them on the day, but I was all ready to go, and then unfortunately the night before Penny was sick, so I couldn't go, and I'm gutted. But I'm still hoping I can go at some point in December for like a vlogmasy thing. I need to talk to my mum, because it would involve a little bit of childcare from her potentially, but I would really like to still go. And if not, if I can't go in December, I might suggest we go down to London for my birthday in January, and I can go and spend some birthday with you. So I will make my way down to knit eventually, but anyway, in the meantime, yes. So the special thing about Lamana Como is that it is manufactured in a way that makes it half the weight of what it would normally be. I don't know what the manufacturing process is. I don't think they've shared exactly what they do, but the point is, this is 25 grams of DK weight yarn, and I've got 120 meters. So if I were to grab this DK weight yarn, which is the double Sunday, we've got 50 grams here, and in it I've got 108 meters. So I've actually got more, and they're like the same. You could use them for the same project. It is so incredibly light. I don't understand how they do it, but it's amazing. My whole scarf, I did the size large technically. However, I will caveat that the Sophie scarf is originally knit on 5mm needles at like a worsted Aran gauge. I made mine on 4mm needles at a DK weight gauge, because that's what I had, that's what I wanted to use. The moment I felt this yarn, I just knew I needed it in and around my face. And I did have to change the pattern slightly, but my whole shawl weighs less than 100 grams. So you can imagine how light that is. If this was in normal DK weight yarn, to get this yardage, it would be 200 grams, which again, still, it's not heavy, but the lightness of this is just exactly what I need. I do the school run every day. It's getting colder and colder, and even when it's cold outside, because I'm usually pulling Penny on a scooter up the hills and carrying the bags and running after the kids, I get hot on the school run. So something super light that will keep me warm but won't make me too hot is perfect, and this is exactly the best thing in the world. The different thing I didn't do a gauge swatch or anything. I just started, and as I went along I kind of got an idea of what my gauge would be. And when I reached the point in the pattern where you would normally, so you start on one end and you increase, you get to the middle and then you decrease. When I got to the point where the pattern told me to start decreasing, I measured my shawl, and I was nowhere near the measurements for the big one. Obviously I wouldn't be, I'm a completely different gauge. So I just continued. I think I did 5 extra repeats, and then I did the same on the opposite side. I did the same extra worth of decreases and just went down. I ended up with a scarf that is the measurements of the large size. I absolutely loved it. I highly recommend. Just do it. Who cares if it's popular? Who cares if it's bandwagon? Just do it. It's amazing. I love it. So thank you, Simone, for the yarn. And that is the finished object. Now, speaking of bandwagons, speaking of petite knit, I should probably show you what has very swiftly become the love affair of the year. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But I know not all of you over here follow me on Instagram. When I had finished my Sophie shawl, but I was still very much needing something mindless and simple, I decided to have a go at the penny gloves by Petite Knit. However, again, I did some tomfoolery, I did some trickery. I mucked about with a gauge, basically. I decided to make some penny gloves because my hands were cold. I, at the time, couldn't find my school run fingerless mittens, though I have now found them in an old coat pocket, of course. But I wanted something that I could wear in the house, but still knit, that I could wear on the school run and not get too hot. And I decided I just wanted something that I didn't even have to think about and that I could easily memorise. So I went with the penny gloves. However, I knit them at they are normally knit at a fingering weight gauge, 3mm needles, but with kind of like the equivalent of sport weight yarn. I think it's like mohair and a fingering, and they're quite tight gauge. And I have got one at the original gauge, which I'll show you in a minute, but I'm going to show you them in the order that I made them. I knit mine at a DK weight gauge on a 4mm needle, and I used, for this pair, this is my pair, I used Nutridon and Dropskid Silk held together. You might recognise this combination. It's what I'm using for my jumper, which I'll show you in a minute in whips. But this is what we have. It doesn't look like this. These don't look like my hands. Sorry. I'll give you a little bit of a close up. Focus on the mitten. Oh, look at that. Oh my god, I'm obsessed. So I've been trying to figure out a way in which I could explain to you what I did to change the gauge of these mittens without revealing the actual pattern, because it is a paid for pattern, and basically I don't think I can. But I can tell you how I got the numbers that I used. To start with, I just winged it. I thought, well, my normal kind of DK weight gauge is 22 stitches per 4 inches. My hand circumference is about 8 inches, so that would be 44 stitches. So I started there and it was way too big, so I ripped them out. And then I kind of had my cuff that was a bit too big, and I just kind of pinched it to where it felt right and counted how many stitches I had, and then I continued. The next place we needed to do a little bit of maths was in the thumb gusset. So you see, like, it's a fingerless mitt pattern, it's pretty obvious. You work up here, then you increase to your thumb, and then you separate your thumb off and you finish the hand, and then you come back and you finish your little thumb. I've already tried to explain this a few times and I keep getting muddled up, but what I basically did to figure out how to get the right size thumb is I used the gauge of the original pattern to work out the circumference of the thumb. So I knew how big in centimetres the thumb circumference needed to be, and then I took my gauge for this pattern and figured out how many stitches I needed. And then I did the same thing for how often to increase along the thumb gusset. I took the row gauge of the original pattern and figured out how many centimetres the thumb gusset is in length, and then I took how many stitches I needed to increase by and divided it by the row gauge to get how often I need to increase. This probably isn't going to make sense if you don't know about knitwear construction and writing a pattern, so I'm really sorry if this isn't very helpful, but I don't fully think I can explain it without revealing the initial pattern. But also, you can totally kind of wing it. You can just, you know, there are a lot of free patterns out there that you could use as a guide to then figure out what you need to do for your thumb gusset, or you could just, you know, increase every couple of rows, see if it fits. If it doesn't, rip it back. It's a mitten, it doesn't take very long. And I actually think that taking a pattern that you already have, like the penny mitts, and then having a go at kind of like reworking it at a different gauge is a great way to kind of dip your toe into knitwear design and start to understand on a slightly deeper level about gauge and how it works. And there are a lot of resources out there. Sister Mountain has got some incredible free resources on designing. They've got great standards, that's what I use. Or sometimes you use the Yarn Craft Council standards, but more often than not I use the Sister Mountain because they are much more in depth, especially for larger sizes. But it's just kind of a good way to start kind of, you know, if you want to, going a little bit deeper into the craft if you're interested in that kind of thing. So basically I did some jiggery pokery and I made DK weight penny gloves, and I wear them all the time and I really love them. And I made my first pair in 6 hours. That's it, literally 6 hours done, and that included all my working out. So immediately after I finished these, I cast on a new pair. I decided I wanted to make these gloves for my son's teachers for their Christmas presents. My son has 3 teachers. He has, his main teacher is job shared between 2 lovely ladies, and then there's his teaching assistant as well. And so I sent him on a little secret mission to find out their favourite colours. And his first teacher's favourite colour was green. So I went into my stash and I found this, which is, have I got one here? Whoopsie! I don't think I've got one with the label on. No, I don't. But it is the Cloudborn alpaca. It's either baby alpaca or adult alpaca, I'm not too sure. But it's fingering weight yarn, so I held it double and I basically did exactly the same. And I think it's quite interesting how different they are actually. I used a 9-inch circular for these, which meant it went so quickly. I could even do the thumb increases on the little mini circular, but I didn't even put a beginning of round marker in. I just marked my first stitch like on the actual stitch, so I didn't even have to slip the marker, and it's just like, and actually this part of the glove is my favourite bit. Like, you wouldn't think so, right? But it's just so satisfying. There's no cuff to muck about with. There's no like, there's just nothing. You just cast on and you go, and I love it. And then when that starts to get a little bit, oh, I'm bored of this now, we get some thumb fun, and then it's like, oh, I like this, they're just so quick. So this is my second pair. I'll give you another little close up. These have been blocked. These haven't, because I didn't really need to, and I've worn them so many times now that they're basically blocked. But these I did block just to even out the stitches a little bit more, make sure they smell nice, make sure they're all like lovely, ready to gift. And then we have since found out the other teacher's favourite colours. We have another green pair to make and we have a yellow pair to make, and I'm very excited. And I haven't cast those on yet, but I do have another pair to show you. Last weekend my husband and I went to the Peak District for his birthday, just me and him. We stayed in this old funny little castle thing in the Hope Valley. It was very Bronte. It was just stunning. 4-post bed, open fire, amazing. And it took us 2.5 hours to drive up there, and I made one glove on the drive up and I made the other glove pretty much on the drive back. And a little bit like in between when we were driving about whilst we were there. For this one I used 1 strand of Filcolana Arvetta and 1 strand of Filcolana Telia Mohair. I don't know what the colours are, soz, but it's like a grey blue and a light blue, so I kind of get a little bit of a marl situation. And I'm not totally in love with this colour combo because the grey mohair on the blue base kind of makes it look like it's dirty. Does that make sense? Can you see it, or is it just me? But basically I needed something to work on in the car, in the dark. So one of these, I'm not sure which one. Not sure which one. I did in the dark. I don't think I can tell, so that's a good sign. There you go, I have finished these ones. I don't know who these are for. I might keep them, I might gift them, I might give them to my mother-in-law because they're her kind of colour. I think she likes like pinks and blues and kind of that kind of pastel-y vibe. But every time I look at them I just think they look a bit dirty, so I think I will just keep these for myself probably. Then I've got one more to show you. This isn't a finished pair. I've only done the one, but I made these at the original gauge just because I had kind of got to grips with the 4mm one. I knew I was really enjoying it, and I thought I'm going to do one at the original gauge because I'd like to compare, and also the kind of, I wanted to slow it down a little bit. I was kind of coming out of my knitting slump, I was coming out of my mental health slump, and I was ready for a little bit more of a longer term project. And all my previous pairs I just knit in one go, like non-stop until they were done. These I'm kind of picking up and putting down. They're like my travel project. This time of year I find myself going out and about a lot. I've got lots going on. I've had loads of appointments. I've had to get my car serviced. I feel like I'm all over the place at the moment. And this is perfect to take with me. I started and did most of this when I was waiting for a doctor's appointment. And this is the original gauge. So it's on 3mm needles. And I really like the fit. They are a slightly closer fit than my DK ones. I could probably lose a couple of stitches from these actually, just to make them a bit tighter, but I also like the knot tightness of them. But I do like the tightness of these. These are made with Biff Sugar Yarns Cinderella, which is the hand-dyed fingering weight yarn. It's a sock yarn. I originally bought for my twists and turns, which is no longer. I mean, it does still exist somewhere, but I ain't finishing that. I did touch upon that in my previous podcast, and I'm going to do a little bit more on that in a little while. But I used the yarn and I held it with a ball of drops Kid Silk in vanilla. And do you know what? Look, I've got one right here. So it's quite interesting because I can show you what they look like separately. So obviously the Cinderella is very pink, gorgeous. So like, I love how evenly speckled it is. There's like no pooling, it's just yummy. And then the vanilla is quite yellow. It's definitely looking a bit lighter on camera. It's warmer in real life. And I originally ordered this to go with this Biff Sugar hand-dyed yarn, but I don't think it's a goer. So I had it left over, and I love how the slightly yellow creaminess of the mohair has kind of made it less pink and a bit more neutral. Can you see how like this plus this equals this? I love it. I just absolutely love it. And this pair is going to be for my sister. We're not doing Christmas presents this year because, you know, the economy. And however, she is hosting our Christmas Eve kind of family party. I hosted it last year. You can go and watch it on the last episode of last year's Vlogmas if you want to see. But my sister moved into a new house this year, and she's really excited to host because it's been a long time since she's been able to, and I'm going to give her these as a thank you for hosting present. You know, you'd normally take like a bottle of wine or a bunch of flowers or something, but I know it's Christmas, so she'll have more than enough booze. My dad he does always gets us a bunch of Christmas flowers, so she won't need any more flowers. So I thought I'll make her a pair of these. She works from home, she's a graphic designer, so she's typing at a computer all the time, and I thought these would be really nice, practical but beautiful thank you gift, and I'm enjoying making them so much. I am not someone who would wear, well, at least I don't think I am, who would wear a whole garment of heavily hand-dyed yarn. This stuff I just showed you is intended for a garment, but as you can see it's very sparsely speckled and will be held with mohair to tone it down even more. But that will be a 2023 project. What's that called? I know someone will ask. This is Mountain Hair Superwash Merino 2575 fingering weight sock, but I'll use it for a garment. And yeah, I enjoy knitting. I really enjoy knitting with hand-dyed yarn. It's so fun, it's so exciting, it's so interesting to see what's coming next and how it works up. So yes, that is my ever-growing collection of penny gloves. Highly recommend. Now I have technically a half finished object, but again it's something that's a pair, so I even if I made the second, it still wouldn't look any different to what I've got now. I did show these were a whip in my last podcast, and they are another pair of mittens, but a more traditional pair of mittens now. These are do you know what, I'm going to pop it the wrong way around on my other hand so I can show you like that. Obviously it's the wrong way around, because that's like my palm, that's the back of my hand. These are the Frost Flower Mittens by Jessica McDonald. These are a charity pattern that have only just been released, and it's in collaboration with a yarn company, I think, and the money goes to I think it's foster parents or foster children, the fostering world anyway, which I absolutely love. And these are going to be a gift for someone. I'm not going to tell you who or why until I have gifted them, though these will be the last time you see them probably, because I am gifting them quite soon. Haven't actually started the second mitten yet, just because my brain got a little bit overloaded and didn't have the space for colour work. But I knit this in maybe like 2 days on and off of just like chilled out knitting, and it's so unbelievably enjoyable. It's the perfect colour work because there are no huge floats. There are a few longer floats, but nothing major, and I really like the lace stitch on the back and the thumb. I really like how the thumb is framed. I did have to go in and duplicate stitch here because I missed some of these stitches. So instead of ripping it all back, I just went back and duplicated the white stitches there. But they're just, oh, I think they're so beautiful. They are festive without being overly Christmassy. I think they look more festive because I've gone for red and white, and I wanted them to look Christmassy. They are a December gift. I want them to be worn this month, but you could wear them, you know, January, February, November, without it being like, I'm wearing Christmas mittens. I'm saying a lot, I do apologise. So yeah, there you go. I used, oh, it's so handy sitting in front of my yarn stash to podcast. It means I don't have to take everything out with me. I used the Sublime Extra Fine Merino. I've got a feeling this is discontinued, because I tried to find it in white to match, but I couldn't find it anywhere. I got this, I got a sweater quantity at a craft show at the beginning of this year, which I haven't used it yet, but I thought, you know, I don't think I'm going to miss a ball or two. It's also not a colour I would wear, so it's unlikely I'll make myself something with it. I might make something for Penny with it, in which case I don't need a full sweater quantity. And then to go with it, I bought the Sirdar Snuggly Cashmere Merino. They feel very similar, which is why I chose this, because I've used this before and I knew it would be very similar. So they are super wash, so I've got a feeling that when I block this, it might grow a little bit. So I'm going to be super careful. The fit of it currently, oh, I got my nail caught on some floats. The fit of it currently is it's just like a teeny weeny bit tight, but that's okay because it's snuggly, and then if it does relax a little bit, it should be fine. I've been doing some, I know the word I want to say, but it's a swear word. I've been doing some gauge F-ery. Not Jeffrey, beep-ery. With this, again, these are originally written for worsted weight gauge, and I think the recommended needle is 4.5. I used DK on 4, but I chose a size that was slightly too big, and it's come up with the perfect size for me. Basically, don't be afraid to muck about a bit with gauge, as long as you're, you know, willing to rip back, in which case, you know, it's a mitten. It's not a whole jumper. If you want to kind of explore that side of things a bit, I highly recommend giving them a go. So I do have a few more technically finished objects, but I'm not going to go mad into it because it would literally be a 6-hour long podcast. So, oh my gosh. If you have seen my last few videos, you'll know that I am creating a Christmas tree completely of knitted and crocheted ornaments. Our village has a Christmas tree trail to raise money for charity and to bring tourism to the village. It starts on Friday, and this year I wanted to do, the theme was all I want for Christmas is ... It's always very broad so that people could do whatever they want basically. And I decided to do all I want for Christmas is yarn, and I knew from the start I wasn't going to be able to do all this on my own. So I asked my mum and my sister, who are avid crocheters, if they would like to help me, which they did. And oh my lord, they provided. This is full of crocheted Christmas ornaments for my tree. There is also a very special paper chain in here, whereas I'm not going to show you them all because it's like it would take me far too long, but I'm going to show you the ones that I made, and during Vlogmas I will go a little bit more into this and share some, I'll share footage of the tree. I will share my favourite ones that they've made and try and get hold of, try and find out what the patterns are for you, because I know there's going to be lots of crocheters within my viewers, but oh my god. My grandma used to knit a lot, and then as she got older she found she struggled to knit. I think it was a mixture of her, you know, physically it being difficult. She's got arthritis, she can't see as well as she used to, and I think she also feels like mentally she can't really do it anymore, and she definitely convinced herself that she couldn't knit anymore. And then we were all having a little crafternoon where we were making these decorations, and my grandma was there saying she just wanted to get involved, so I just cast her on a couple of stitches, gave her some needles, like, just give it a go, grandma, and she was off like riding a bike. And she has made me a paper chain. Like, I can't tell you like how much this means to me that she did this, because seeing like the joy in her face again of reconnecting with knitting and discovering that she can still do it and that she does still enjoy it was just incredible to see. This is so special to me. I'm gonna cry. I just wanted to really showcase this one to you. It's all just garter, and she raided her old yarn stash. We've got glittery ones, slubby ones, and she's really enjoyed it. And my mum said that she's now feeling a little bit lost without her garter paper chain to make. So I am asking you, lovely viewers out there in the world, if you can recommend any patterns that would be suitable for my grandma to make. She has no interest in making like baby blankets or squares or anything like that. She says, well, she did say she found it quite boring, but this was quite repetitive and she really enjoyed it. So maybe not like blanket patterns or anything like that, but something small that's interesting but not too difficult that she can maybe pick up and put down. If you have any ideas, if something just pops into your mind while you hear me talking about it, please just pop it in the comments, because I'd love to find her a pattern that I could either teach her or that she could pick up quite easily and commit to memory, and we can keep this going for her because it makes me so happy. So that's what my grandma made, and I'm going to show you what I made in my last episode. I showed you I made these stars. I will link the pattern below, and I've made 3 of these now. I've shown these quite a lot, so I don't really need to go into it. But I also, oh god, where are they? Well, I've lost them now. Honestly, my contribution to this tree is pitiful compared to what my mum and my sister have done. I'm trying to remind myself that to make a crocheted ornament, it's a lot quicker than making a knitted one. So, oh my god, I can't find it. Ah, there you are, little mushy. So I also made, I was going to make quite a few of these, and the tree goes up tomorrow, and I feel like I can still like add to it once it goes up, like it doesn't have to all be done by tomorrow. But I made this adorable little mushroom. This was a free pattern on Ravelry. Again, I'll link it below. I think it used rounds and rows interchangeably, and I had to kind of do a little bit of interpretation. And the little white dots I did using duplicate stitch afterwards, and in the original pattern they were like anchored French knots or something like that, or embroidered French knots, and I just couldn't make it work. They just kept disappearing, so I did little duplicate stitch guys. But it was ever so simple. I think this took me like 2 hours, and it's tiny, whereas like something like my mum was like knocking these out like 2 or 3 a night. So a little mushroom. And then I also made from a new pattern that's just been released, although there are lots and lots of these patterns, all free on Ravelry. I saw this one pop up on my Instagram and I just thought it was so cute, so I've made tiny little jumpers. This is the mini puff crop sweater ornament pattern by the Wandering Flock, which is a hand dyer, and I just really liked the kind of, I just liked how it looks like a little modern Christmas jumper. So I did just like a red and white one, and I did a stripy one as well, though this one annoyed me because of the increases. The raglan doesn't look very clean, which is totally up to me. I just did like a one round stripe, and it's like messy in the back. My beginning of brown, but it doesn't matter, it's an ornament. This one was fiddly, don't recommend. This one was much easier and much quicker, highly recommend. And I was thinking about doing some kind of duplicate stitch on here, but I ran out of puff, and again these took like each took a couple of hours, and you wouldn't think for something so tiny. So I don't know if I'm going to have much more time to make any more of these. I feel weird that I don't have 3. I would like to have 3 but I'm also trying not to overthink it. There's no like theme to this tree, it's just like yarny things. There's no colour theme. I happen to go with Christmassy colours because it's what I had in stash, but my mum and my sister went crazy with the colours, and it's kind of ended up being this like quite kind of kitsch looking tree. So yeah, I'm so excited to decorate it tomorrow. Hopefully the weather will not be too awful. Everything that we've made has been using either acrylic yarn or superwash yarn, so that when the month is over and it's all been battered by the weather for 4 weeks, I can bring everything in, wash it all in the bath, lay it all out, and it should all dry, and I can use them again next year. It will be a different theme next year for the outdoor tree, but my plan is to get one of those. I've actually already got one, but it's for a different room. One of the small thin Christmas trees to pop in my kids' room, so they have a little festive decoration next year, and I'm going to use all of these to decorate that tree, because then it will be safe for them. If they want to pull them off and play with it, they can. Nothing's going to get broken. So these will be kept and cherished and loved for a very, very, very long time. So that is all my finished objects for now. This is gonna be a long one, and my coffee has gone cold, but I'm gonna drink it anyway. Whip wise, I haven't got a huge amount going on at the moment. I have a main whip which I'm focusing on at the moment, and I'm about to introduce another main whip which I'm going to go into. I haven't cast it on yet, but I have swatched and I've got some thoughts for you. And I also have a whip that's kind of on hold whilst I lost my sweater mojo, but I'm actually I keep thinking about working on it, but it's quite low down the priority list because I have some gift knitting to do. I'll show you that first, just because I haven't actually made any progress on it since I last podcasted. But it is my Colorwork yoke festive Newton jumper. This is my own design. I don't have any intention of releasing it anytime soon. Maybe next year. I quite like to muck about with the Colorwork chart to make them look a little bit more like baubles. I was going for leaves / feathers, but we've got something quite festive and I love it. I've done most of the body. It is going to be cropped, so I just need to add the rib to the bottom and add the sleeves, and it's 5.5mm needle, so it'll be one of those. If I just commit like 3 days to it, it will be done. So I might do that soon. I had lost 2 balls of my mohair though, and I was like, surely I haven't used them all, surely I ordered enough, what's going on? And I found them, so I know I definitely have enough yarn to finish it, so it's back in favour. Oh my gosh, I really want it. Oh no, maybe I should just, instead of putting myself through the inner turmoil, just get it done, because this would be nice to wear to Christmas parties. We've got, oh, I've been invited to the school mum's Christmas curry. If you know anything about me, you'll know that I do not do social occasions, especially people I don't really know very well, but I said yes. I was a big girl. There are a few mums who I do kind of know or have gotten to know over the past like couple of months starting school, and a few people that I feel quite safe with, so I'm gonna go and I'm sure it'll be fine. I'll be an absolute nervous wreck, impossible to live with for the day before, but I'm sure it'll be fine when I get there. So it would be really nice to wear that to the party. So that's going to be coming and going over the next few weeks. My main whip that I'm working on at the moment, we've been on a bit of a journey to get here. So where's my shawl? I keep wanting to call it a shawlography, but it's not. It's my blooming twists and turns. Where is it? I see, I don't even know where it is. I've shoved it away somewhere in disgrace. I don't even think I can show it to you. Or is it? I think it might be in my... Is it in here? Yes, here it is. Okay, so I think I think, is it attached to anything? No, it's not attached to anything. It's still got stitch holders on. This is how far I got in my twists and turns. I showed you this section and I was really excited about it. I finished clue 2 and again I was still enjoying it up to this point, but then I started clue 3, which was the kind of long twisted stitch section, and was like, oh, I'm not sure how I feel about this. I also hate doing twisted stitches, so I thought I'm just going to wait until clue 4 comes out and see how I feel. Clue 4 came out, I couldn't. I knew that I wasn't going to enjoy working on it. I knew that I didn't particularly like the finished look of it. I knew that my grandma probably wouldn't be that into it. And so I just decided not to finish it. It's an interesting one this year. Obviously, I have absolutely huge respect for Stephen West. His creative mind, like, blows my creative mind. Is definitely, like, he pushes the boundary of the craft, which is incredible and something I could, like, never dream of being capable of. But he's quite divisive in his designs, and even though I wouldn't normally choose to knit Stephen West designs for myself, I really enjoyed Shawlography last year. I really liked the finished garment. It felt like a masterpiece. It felt like a sampler of all the different knitting techniques I could do, and I felt so good giving it to my grandma and she loved it. And I just didn't get the same feelings with this one, so I decided not to continue. The only reason I haven't ripped it out yet is because I wanted to show you how far I got. I really liked my yarn choice. I know I was unsure about the red, and a lot of you said that I should go with the ochre instead, but I'm glad I didn't, because I feel like the red makes this brown look quite gold, and I think in the end, in this context, this would have not like popped so much, and the idea was a pop. But yes, I will be reusing all this yarn in the future. This will get ripped out and reskeined, and I'm gonna use it. This is what, this is the, is it? This is what I'm using for the penny gloves, and this what was the cable section here. So all the yarn will get reused. In my last episode, I showed you that I had instead cast on the Woodlark shawl by Fibre Tales. Here it is. And I was umming and ahhing whether to rip it out, finish it, carry on, not too sure. And I decided in the end that I wasn't going to continue this one either. Absolutely nothing wrong with this pattern. I love this pattern. I really, really want to make it, but I didn't like my yarn choice. Nothing wrong with the yarns individually. This is the John Arbon Devonia, which is stunning, and I'm going to give you more of a close-up of that in a minute. And this is the original, it's called Woodland Stroll by Truly Yarns from the Twists and Turns. But I just didn't like the combination. The original shawl has a light background with a dark colour work, and it just looks so much nicer. Also, my gauge for this, I didn't gauge swatch because it's obviously it's a shawl, but it was just too, I felt like the gauge was too loose. There you can see it up there, like how see-through it is. I didn't like how the gauge was working up. I've got a very woolly wool and a superwash merino, which wasn't really working for me either. And I'd also managed to do this bit of colour work backwards, so it looks messy in the centre and the leaves are pointing in the wrong direction, which again I know isn't the end of the world, but was annoying me. It's a steeped shawl, by the way, which I was excited to do, and I would like to revisit this pattern in the future, but I would like to do it with a light background, maybe with like a tweed or a melange or a heather or something textured, and then a nice dark contrast, maybe in the natural colours that she used in her sample. So that was option 2. I finally settled on option 3, and I think it's a winner. It's going to be, there's not going to be a huge amount that I can show you here because, oh my god, I haven't even finished the row. Bad Laura. And the reason I chose this pattern was because it's like 80% mindless, repetitive garter. And that is all I've got the headspace for at the moment, as you might be able to tell. When I wasn't sure what to do, the universe must have heard me, because I go into my YouTube, I look at my subscription feed, and lovely Amber from a lovely yarn YouTube channel had posted a video all about her favourite shawls. I think it was like top 20 or something like that. And I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. So I just sat back with a cup of tea and I watched it, looked for some inspiration. And this was like the 3rd or the 4th shawl she showed, I think. And I was like, that's it, that's the one, here we go. And it is called the, I can't even remember what it's called, it's something Hills. Something Hills. I'm going to have to go into my Ravelry now, aren't I? Annoying. Rolling Hills shawl, and it is by Audrey Morris. I will put in a picture now here of the finished shawl because you're not going to be able to see what it looks like from my little bit of work that we have going on here. Because literally this is it. This is what we have so far. It's like a garter crescent and that's it. Oh, how good does the colour look? Oh my gosh, oh yes. So I chose this because it is like I said, 80% garter stitch. Really, really repetitive, mindless. I can pick it up, put it down, know exactly where I am. I can do it in the car, I can do it, well, I've since discovered that I can't. Oh my god, we're very blown out. I've since discovered that I can't, oh no, we're bloody hell, it's light today. I've since discovered that I can't knit it at night unless I'm sat right under a light, because the next day I just spend the first like few rows going back and picking up all the little strands of mohair that I've not included in the stitch. And like laddering down in garter is a bit annoying because it's like knit one purl when you're going back up again. But this is the John Arbon Devonia fingering weight in the shade, oh god, the light is not the one today, is it? In the shade Nightshade. This is a gift from my mother-in-law a couple of Christmases ago, and I've decided to hold it with Drops Kid Silk, and it's the shade, it's the colour 16. I don't know what it's called or if it even has a name, but I'll give you a little close-up and see if I can get you a nice representation of what it looks like. I feel like I kind of captured it there. It's definitely coming up a lot darker on screen than it is in real life. The wonderful thing about John Arbon yarn, and I've got some in the skein here, this is actually, I've got this in DK and fingering weight yarn, is, do you know what, it's probably better I give you a close-up of the skein so you can see the true beauty of this yarn. So as you will have hopefully seen, the wonderful thing about John Arbon yarns is they don't dye the yarn, they dye the fibre. So instead of making the yarn and then dyeing that, what they do is they have all the different fibre in all the different colours, and then they blend that together to make the colour. So this will have been made out of blue and red. They recently did a live because they launched a new yarn called, they launched a new yarn called Yarnadelic. That Yarnadelic has been available in 4-ply for quite a while. It's now available in a worsted weight, and they did send me some to have a little sample of. Oh my god, so yummy. So this one, this kind of peachy pinky colour, is actually made up of like yellow and white and orange, I think, to make this kind of pinky colour. And it just creates really beautiful, deep, it's really hard to explain. It's basically just like really deep and heathered in the most beautiful way. And when I decided to hold it with the mohair for this project, I was worried that I was going to lose some of that, but actually in real life you still get that lovely depth and variation of colour. But in this case, because my mohair, the silk strand in my mohair is slightly lighter, it kind of gives it almost like a shine and a shimmer, which I really, really like, and I know that my grandma will really, really like as well. And I think when I get to the feather and fan lace at the bottom, it's just going to look so, so beautiful. The pattern originally says fingering weight yarn on a 4mm needle. I knew that I wasn't going to like that with the Devonia on its own, because I have already experienced that in my woodlark shawl, and that wasn't even a 4mm, that was a 3.5 I think. What I actually did was I added the mohair and I went down from a 4mm to a 3.75mm needle, and I could have got away with a 4mm needle. I think the gauge and the fabric is a little bit tight, but I don't mind that because it's going to be a little bit warmer. Also it's garter, so it's going to stretch out and it's going to get its drape when it's blocked and everything, and it might come up a little bit smaller, but in the pattern, I love it when patterns do this, it advises you what to do if you want to make it bigger. It says make sure you've got this like this amount of stitches, and like how to figure out how to make sure you've got enough yarn left over for the next section, all that kind of stuff. So I will follow it to pattern until it tells me to stop, and I will assess the size. I'm not going for a huge shawl here. My grandma doesn't need anything big, and when she wears a shawl, she will wear it over a jumper. She wears it almost like, she wears it as like a fashion item rather than a practical item. It's not there to keep her warm, though it will add warmth to her and it will keep her warm, which is lovely. But when she wears her shawlography, it's fully draped all across her back. She wants to show it off. She wants to show the piece. So it doesn't need to be huge. And I just think, I can imagine her, this purple colour just makes me think of my grandma so much, against like a white turtleneck where the lace will really pop against the light background when we get there. And it's just, I think it's going to look so beautiful. So yes, I'm really enjoying picking this up and putting it down. I sometimes think to myself, well, if I've got a lot to do that day, I will try and find, you know, even just half an hour to just sit and do a couple of rows on it. The rows are getting really, really long now. I think it's a couple of 100 stitches by the time we're done, and then it's still increasing throughout the lace as well. So each row is getting longer and longer and longer, but I don't really mind that. So that is my main whip. And I think that is it for current projects. So coming up next, I have a few swatches to show you actually, and a few acquisitions. So I'm going to start with what I intend to be casting on next, which is exciting. Where is my swatch? What is it? What is it? Oh, here it is, right behind me. So if you've been here a while, you'll know that I am planning to make my husband a jumper for Christmas. This will be the 4th year that I've done it. However, the first 2 years were epic fails because I didn't gauge swatch, didn't choose the right yarn, and they grew 3 times the size and looked ridiculous. So they were donated or recycled, and last year I made him the single malt by Maxim Sir, which he still wears now. I'm going to pop in a little picture of him because when we went to the Peak District at the weekend, we went on a walk. The weather was really, really beautiful, so we just wore wellies and hand knit jumpers. I wore my eclair, he wore his single malt, and I did sneak a little picture of him, which I will ask his permission because he's not keen on, he doesn't like having his picture taken or being shared, so we won't ask him, so it might not be here. But it's, you can't see his face or anything, it's just behind. But it was, we just found this really beautiful, basically it was a chapel that had fallen down, but the archway of the door and the kind of picture of the roof still remained, and it was just so gorgeous to just stumble across this in the middle of the countryside. It was amazing. So this year my plan is to make him the Big Love cardigan by Anchorstrick. I found this via Instagram. A couple of you suggested it to me when I wasn't sure what to do, and I think it's a great pattern. It's exactly what I wanted. He's been asking for a cardigan. He really likes a shawl collar. I wanted something cozy that he could like wrap up in, but he could have open if he gets too hot. The one thing he says about his single malt is that it is a little bit too warm, like he wants to wear it to work on the train and on the tube and stuff, and he just gets too hot. So I do, part of me thinks I should be making him something that's like a little light, a little bit more lightweight, but I feel like I'm committed to this idea now and I don't want to stray from it. And I will be doing something a little bit more along those lines for him next year. But with a cardigan, you have got like a little bit more like control. It's also a really kind of, it's really gender neutral in its design. And I love that on the Ravelry page, there are just as many pictures of guys wearing it as there are girls. And I can really see what it looks like. And that's what sold it to me, this pattern actually. There's this one picture, which I think I've shared before, of a lovely gentleman wearing a grey one. And I was like, yeah, so I swatched for this last night. I knew I was going to be podcasting today, and I really wanted to have something to show and to kind of make a decision on this because it's a month till Christmas. It's crunch time. I've got to knit him a whole cardigan in this time. So I did my swatch last night and I don't know how I feel about it. So I chose to use the Phil Kalana Peruvian Highland wool, known, trusted, loved, one of my faves. I know that he will be fine with the softness of it. I trust this yarn with my life. It's that a weird thing to say? Love the colour, exactly what I wanted. But I don't know if it's a good match for this pattern. So here's my little swatch. It is a stitch pattern that I've never done before. I never even thought of before or heard of before. But it's called an offset rib. So where you would have like a broken rib, it's kind of like that, but it's shifted every other like repeat. So you kind of get this kind of polka dot vibe. And there are two reasons why I'm unsure about this. One is because I feel like my stitches look a bit wonky. Secondly, because it looks very similar to the single mole. It's not the same stitch, but it's a very similar vibe. And it's a bit like, bit of the same thing really. And actually working this swatch it's not mindless. It will become mindless, I feel like. It's just knits and pearls, but throughout the whole garment it's constant texture. There's no break, there's no single row where it's just knitting. And I don't know if I love this enough to warrant the work it's gonna take. I have met gauge. I panicked at first because I was like, hang on a minute, it's Aran weight yarn but it's on 4mm needles, what? But you know, I trusted it and I did it, and I was like, my swatch is too small. But it does say in the pattern, which is really amazing, it says it gives you guidance on how to measure your swatch and how to swatch. I added a little bit of one by one rib at the top because the shawl of the collar is in 1x1, and I just wanted to make sure I liked how it looked. And I do like how the 1x1 looks. But I don't know. I just don't know. But I'm also kind of like, it's getting a bit late now, Laura. You need to get a wriggle on. Just kind of get started. The one thing that is kind of keeping it there is that I'm really intrigued by the construction. The construction looks really, really fun. You kind of like start with the shawl at the back, and then you do a bit of the back, and then it's all incorporated into one. So I won't be picking up that massive shawl collar after I've done the body, and then the sleeves look like they'll be quite satisfying after doing all that back and forth. So I should just do it really, shouldn't I? I really should. So that's what I'm going to be casting on next. I think it's going to happen. I was hoping that talking about it on the podcast would help me decide, and I don't think I can bring myself to now like try and find something different to do. I might do one more like Ravelry search. I might search by gauge this time. I've got my gauge for this, and then yeah, we'll see. I don't know, but that's what I'll be casting on next. And welcome back. I apologise if things are slightly different looking. I mean, though, why should I apologise for that? It's a weird thing to apologise for. My battery ran out, and it would appear I have lost my spare battery, which doesn't bode well for Vlogmas. So it's been about half an hour since my battery ran out, and it was a blessing in disguise because I think I was getting a little bit rambly. I've had a little moment, done some tidying up, basically doing a Cray Bear impression. Had a little break and I'm back. I am going to pick up from acquisitions. I think I was about to show you, well, I was showing you another swatch. I was getting a little bit rambly about it, so I'm gonna restart that section. I've made myself a cup of tea, and this is a very, very special moment because so far I have not yet cracked out the Christmas mugs. I usually crack out the Christmas mugs on the 1st of December, but this is a new purchase and I decided it was time. I got this from Asda, or Asda Living, or George, or whatever it is, and I've wanted a glass like tea cup for ages, and this one has candy canes on it. You gonna focus? Woo, yay! And in it I have a Puka Revitalize. Oh gosh, dearie me, very out of focus now, aren't I? In it I have a Puka Revitalize tea, which is like cardamom, cinnamon, ginger or something like that. I am not normally a big herbal tea drinker, but this year I'm really, really enjoying herbal tea at home. If anyone ever offers to make me one, I'm like, oh yes please, and I really enjoy it. I just never think to make one. I'm normally coffee, but I think because I have to be really careful with my caffeine intake because of my Graves' disease, I definitely don't drink as much coffee as I used to, and even then it wasn't very much. But with the temperature dropping and me trying to avoid putting the heating on at all costs, I've been gravitating towards herbal tea a lot more. I've also popped my mittens on because you just make everything so much more cozy, and I do have a lap blanket on. Basically, I've gone into full old lady mode and I am loving it. So I'm going to put this down before I spill it everywhere and probably forget about it. But so I'm going to pick up where I left off. Because I couldn't go to the knit.co.uk launch, I decided I was still going to buy some of the thing I was intending to buy when I went down there. Something that my dear friend Caroline of Caroline's Knits has been encouraging me to purchase and try for a long time. And that is, I've picked up the ball without a ball band. Hang on, here we go. I decided to buy from knit.co.uk some Sneffnug. Yay! I'll give you a little close up. Sneffnug has a reputation for being one of the softest, most beautiful, most luxurious blown yarns out there, and I can tell you now, it does not disappoint. Caroline, you are absolutely right. I am well versed with Drops Air and Drops Wish. I have experienced Sanders Gone Cos, and this is definitely, you can tell that it's just lovely. It is. I'm going to give you the stats. Are we out of focus? Yep. What's going on with the focus, guys? I'm going to give you the stats. We've got 55% alpaca, 35% bole mold og, which I think is, I don't know, it could be cotton, it could be something man-made, and we've got 10% merinoed. Extra thin merinoed, which is extra fine merino, but that 35% I'm not entirely sure. Let's just do a quick Google. Sneffnug. It's very satisfying to say. Sneffnug, which means snowflake, I believe. 100% natural materials. Oh, we haven't got. Oh yeah, so yeah. 55% alpaca, 35% cotton, 10% merino. And the cotton will be the little tube that the alpaca and merino is blown into to get a super light fluffy yarn. I went for black. I have knit with black yarn before. I haven't finished anything in black yarn before. And to go with it, I also bought, oh my gosh, this isn't this. Oh, I'm getting a call from Middlesbrough, England. I mean, I hate answering the phone to people I know, so if I don't know the number, I ain't answering it. I also bought to go with it some Sanders Gone Tin Silk Mohair, which is a mohair blend. It's mainly, so it's 57% mohair, 28% silk, and it's got 15% merino wool. It might not be merino, but 15% wool. So it's slightly kind of thicker, denser than your normal lace weight mohair, and just adds a little bit more bulk. And the reason I bought this to go with it, when I do actually have some Isaga Alpaca 1 lace weight alpaca in black that I could have held with this. I chose this because I wanted something with a little bit more poof, because the reason I bought this is I wanted to make a dress. Now, I saw and got very excited about this year's Augustine's Christmas dress, but I decided not to make it in the end because I just wasn't so into the construction of it. It's almost like a tabard, so it's like a front and a back with the big poofy skirt, and I loved the double peplum, I loved the double ruffle, and I think it's brioche, it might just be rib, I'm not too sure, but it didn't connect underneath and designed to be worn over something, but I very much envisioned myself wearing it as is without anything underneath. I liked the idea that I could wear a knitted dress to a Christmas party but not get hot, but I would have to wear some, I mean, you wouldn't have to, I suppose it would look nice with like a little lacy bra or something underneath, but that just wasn't what I had in mind, so I decided not to make that in the end. But I did still very much want to make a Christmas dress. Now I may or may not, I think it depends how long my other whips take me. Basically, if I find myself with the time, I will cast this on maybe mid-December, we'll see. And it might even not be a Christmas dress, it might be a birthday dress or a New Year dress. We haven't got our New Year's plans yet, but we're actually staying home for New Year this year, not going to Devon, so there may be some kind of party involved. I don't know, I'd love to host. We're not doing any Christmas hosting this year, apart from potentially my dad on Christmas Day, but we're not holding any parties or anything like that. We're all going elsewhere for them all, so I think I'd quite like to have a Christmas party, if not maybe a birthday party, so it could be for that. But the idea that I have got kind of milling about in my head is something that is tight and fitted on the top, either sleeveless or maybe like a long short sleeve or a 3/4 length sleeve, but very tight fitted to the body, so probably ribbed on the top, and then a like high waist, maybe even slightly higher than natural waist, but you know, kind of waist, big poof, like big skirt, but not long, like short, to either wear with tights or without tights if it's in the evening. And I've done a little swatch for it just to kind of see what my idea looked like, and we're nearly there. So you can see here we've got the rib, it's going to be really hard to show because it's dark, but we've got the rib here, which is one strand of the Sneffnug and one strand of the mohair, and along here this kind of poofy, kind of what will be the skirt. I know it looks like a ruffle souffle dress, maybe not. This was what was kind of going to be like the skirt, and these are very different gauges, and this was 2 strands of Sneffnug and 1 strand of the mohair. And basically, even though visually it's what I was aiming for, density wise it's not. It is too heavy. I don't feel like this would be very comfortable to wear. I feel like the weight of the skirt will affect the fit of the top. So basically what I need to do is lose some bulk. So I think for the skirt, actually 1 strand of Sneffnug and 1 strand of the mohair, or maybe even 2 strands of mohair, 1 strand of Sneffnug, maybe on a bigger needle size. I think I used 10mm for this and 5 for this. I basically just need to kind of find my levels again and readjust. I did get quite far on last year's Augustine's Christmas dress, but I decided not to finish it in the end, and I reused the yarn for something else. And it was very, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, is this going to be see-through? Like, I don't know, but it was in a very neutral colour, and it didn't turn out to be see-through in the end. So I think I just need to be a little bit braver and go for a looser gauge here, lighter weight fabric on the skirt. And I mean, I'll probably wear tights under it anyway, or I'd just wear like a little slip skirt, like a little satin slip underneath, just to make sure it wasn't see-through. But there's definitely something going on here, and it's definitely something in my head. I've got a very clear vision of what it's going to look like. It's very inspired by a lot of things I'm seeing on the high street at the moment, so I just wanted to see if I could recreate that in wool, if I can make it myself. And again, design wise, I don't know if this is going to be a thing that will happen or not. I'm very much not thinking about designing to release at the moment. I have mentioned this already before in previous videos, but I'm a little bit burnt out design wise. It doesn't mean I want to stop designing at all. I've got so many exciting things like coming up for 2023, so many ideas. I just need a little bit of a break from the process. So I may be working on designs, but probably not going to be anything new for me release wise for a little while now, probably not until February, March time. The eclair stud is in the process, the test is about to start, but again, that's going to be quite scale back, reduced, quiet, calm, non-invasive. Just want to enjoy Christmas. So that's what I'm doing with my Sneffnug, and holding it up now, I'm really excited about it. Eek! I do have a few more acquisitions for you. As I mentioned, I went to the Peak District. We stayed in a little, well, next to a little village. It was on the outskirts of a village or a town called Hathersage. I was calling it Hathersage, but that's how it's spelled, but it's not. It's Hathersage. That's how the locals say it. And it's the place where we stayed was said to have inspired, I think it's Mr. Rochester's house in Jane Eyre, but I've not read Jane Eyre. But apparently, like, Charlotte Bronte frequented that place a lot, which is really, really exciting. It really did feel like you were in a Bronte novel when we were going about, and it was windy, and I know Wuthering Heights was not Charlotte Bronte, I think it was Emily Bronte, but I definitely had Wuthering Heights by Kate Bush in my head a lot during this trip. And I've read Wuthering Heights and I loved it when I read it, so I really should read Jane Eyre. Maybe I'll listen to it. But while we were there, I did have a quick scan of all the local yarn shops, and very close to where we were staying was a hand dyer called Peak District Yarns, and they have their own shop, but it wasn't open on the Sunday, and that was my opportunity to go to a yarn shop. However, on our way back home again on the Sunday, we decided to visit Bakewell, which was a really stupid idea because Bakewell is probably the most famous Peak District town. Bakewell tarts. It was so busy, there was not a single parking space within what felt like a 10-mile radius. There was a big market on and it was just jam packed. So once we got there, it was like I literally jumped out of not quite a moving car, but I jumped out of the car while my husband just literally went round and round, and I pegged it to Y Wolves, which is in Bakewell, and I was also on a mission to pick up a traditional Bakewell tart to take back to my mother-in-law who was looking after the children. Fortunately, you're not short on bakeries in Bakewell, so there was one right next to Y Wolves. But I ran in and I had a very specific thing in mind. I wanted to find yarn for the penny gloves that I'm making for Jeff's teachers. In my head, I didn't have any yellow yarn when I actually do. I've got some beautiful yellow yarn. I've got some Opus by Walcott yarns and stash that I could totally use, and I might still use. It depends how my purchase winds up. And in Y Wolves they had Peak District yarns. Yay! So I managed to get some. They only had a few skeins. I've got a feeling that Peak District yarns were at the market, but I just didn't have time to find them or go round. It was so busy. Not something that I am I enjoy. If I've got time, if I had time to mooch with my headphones in, it would have been lovely, but that wasn't the case. So I looked in the basket. I went into Y Wool, and it was mainly kind of like your classic commercial yarns. Lots of Sirdar, lots of Hayfield, all that kind of thing. But I said, do you have anything local? And she had one little basket with I think 5 skeins in it, and one of them was this one, and I was like, well, I was in the market for some yellow yarn. So I just grabbed it and was like, yes. So this is the Peak District Yarns, unique hand-dyed yarns inspired by the landscape of the Peak District, hand dyed in Tideswell or Tidswell, I'm not sure. And this is the sock yarn. Basically, it's quite thick for a sock yarn. Actually, it's 365 meters for 100 grams. It's merino nylon, 80/20, Derbyshire dots yellows, and as you can see, it's got white, yellow, orange, and kind of an ochre vibe. And excuse me, I need to clear my throat. I have no idea how this is going to wind up. I've got a feeling it's going to be quite stripy, and if you compare it to the Biff Sugar, oh gosh, fairy lights, oh no, what a disaster. I'm doing it one-handed because I've got my tea in my other hand. You can see how this one hasn't got such large chunks of colour. It's got, you know, different tones in it and speckles, but this one is definitely, I think it would be quite stripy. So I'm gonna wind this up, see how it looks in the cake, because it'll probably look quite different, and then I will probably hold this with a mohair to tone it down a little bit. I'm going to see what it's like with the vanilla, because I think that could work really, really well. And I also still have some alpaca boucle from, what's it called? Hedgehog Fibres alpaca boucle, but I don't know what yardage I've got. It might not be enough, but I could hold the alpaca boucle with the Walcott yarns, and that would make a very, very yellow pair of gloves. But I think this would be really, really fun, especially held with some mohair. So I was waiting for this podcast to wind this up, so you'll see me working on these during Vlogmas. Those are for Jeff's TA, and another, I've packed it all away and I haven't got it out again, that was silly. The other yarns I bought from Y Wools, I wanted something green, a different green. I did think I could do some Newton gloves for my son's other teacher, but I don't, for me this feels amazing on my hands. I love it. It feels soft to me, but in comparison to like the 100% alpaca, I'd say that this could be interpreted by someone who isn't a wool fanatic as itchy or scratchy or rustic. I love it, but I didn't want to risk that, giving something to someone who I don't know what their wool tolerance is. So when I was in Y Wools, I had a lovely chat with the lady. She was really helpful. I kind of told her what I was doing, what I was looking for, and she actually recommended this, which is the Style Craft Recreate 100% recycled yarn. So it's 40% wool, 30% acrylic, 30% polyester, all recycled, which I thought was wicked. It means that it is going to be easy to care for by my teacher. It's 30 degrees machine washable, and you can even cool tumble dry it, though I probably wouldn't recommend that. So it's super soft, super wearable, absolutely fine for someone who doesn't like wool, but it's got a really nice wool content, and it's recycled, which I think is really nice, and a nice, you know, a nice yarn to gift. Because when I've finished all these gloves, I'm going to make a little brown tag that will say what it's made of, how to care for it, and I'm going to include like a little miniature, like, you know, you can like make a little bow or butterfly out of the yarn for repairs, which I thought would be really cute. So I can put on the label that it's made from recycled materials, which is lovely, and it's kind of got a slight tweed. It's ever so subtle, it's slightly tweedy, slightly melangey. Let's give you a close-up. And I could just like see it in the gloves. I don't think I'll be holding mohair with this one. I might have to do, I'll just have to cast them on and see what I think, really. Like I said, it is DK, but we've got 350 meters for 100 grams. So I feel like it's quite a light DK, so I might actually be able to get away with holding some mohair with it. I do have some leftover Chantilly, which is coming up very light, but it is greener in real life, which might be quite nice. I'm not too sure. My other option, because I wasn't sure about that one on the colour, because it's quite a yellowy green, it's quite a neutral green. The teacher in question quite often wears like a long camel coloured cardigan and black leggings. Yeah, I'm taking note of what I wear to base the yarn choice on. I feel like this would go with her cardigan. Oh, I'm overthinking this. But my other option is I just went for this King Cole Luxury Merino DK Superwash in a kind of like more solid green, which I could hold with, is it here? No, I don't know where it is. I've got some of the Sanna's Garden Silk mohair that has got the little bit of wool in it, in a dark green. It was basically my other option for this. So it looks very similar to this, maybe a little bit lighter, which I thought I could hold with and basically make the Newton ones, but with a more easily cared for, softer yarn. So those are my main acquisitions. Have I got any other acquisitions while I'm here? I don't think I do. So there you go. That's all the future plans, all the yarn, all the projects, all the things. Yay. So let's do a little bit of chat. I tell you what, it feels good to feel good. It's definitely been a long few weeks. And I finally feel like I've come out of that now. I mentioned before I've hit a bit of a manic mode, and even in this little break when I was waiting for my battery to charge up a little bit, I made the bed. What? Like, for someone who quite often, even the concept of making the bed feels overwhelming, it feels really nice to be in this kind of productive phase, and I'm going to make the most of it while I can. I have started doing my kind of pre-Christmas planning. Every year I'm like, I'm going to make a plan, and last year I wrote a list on the 1st of December but didn't look at it again. And I think the problem is my plans are always a little bit too grand, and I definitely overwhelmed myself before I've even had a chance to do anything. So this year, what I'm going to do is, instead of making my list and being like, sort out kitchen cupboards, sort out like guest room, I'm going to break it down into really, really tiny chunks. So it's going to be like, sort out junk drawer, sort out the snack cupboard, that kind of thing. Just little moments of reorganisation. My bedroom has become ridiculous. My wardrobe is completely inaccessible. The kids' wardrobe and their clothes storage is completely inaccessible, to the point where it makes simple things like putting the laundry away so much more difficult. But that task itself is quite huge. So instead, I'm even going to break that down into doing like, do one shelf in the wardrobe or do Ben's side of the wardrobe. And even though I haven't made the list yet, I'm already doing things on the list. Like yesterday, I was putting some washing away. The kids were in the bath, which is like next to my bedroom, so I can see them. I can see that they're safe in the bath. I went to put my pyjamas away and I couldn't physically get them in the drawer. And I was like, why am I doing this to myself? So I was like, hang on a minute. I've got 5 minutes here. Let's sort out that bottom drawer. And I did. And it's already been life-changing. So the next week for me, I think, is going to be getting started on all that pre-Christmas sorting out, because I really want to have a slightly more chilled out Christmas. Though last year was pretty chill. When I think back on it, honestly, in my head, there was a lot of my headspace was taken up by things that I thought I should be doing. And it's the same with gift knitting. I had quite a long list of gift knits, and though yes, I'm doing all these mittens for my brother's teachers, my son's teachers, I'm really, really enjoying that so far. And if I don't get it done, I don't have to do it. And there are a few other things that I would like to knit for people, but I already feel like I don't have that pressure on myself. I've already said to like my mum and my sister, I won't be knitting them Christmas gifts this year, because they've already had a knitted Christmas gift from me. And if I do knit someone a gift this year, I want to knit things for people I haven't knit for before. So like my little brothers, my son's teachers, that kind of thing. If I've got it in me to knit a gift for someone, I want it to be for someone who's not received one before. So if I'm knitting for girls, it'll probably be penny gloves, and if I'm knitting for any of the boys in my life, it will probably be some form of hat, either the watch cap by Pearl Soho or the hipster hat by Penrose, something like that, some kind of ribbed hat. I did a few last year, but they were kind of ad-libbed by me, which added stress. So this year I'm just gonna follow patterns. I'm not doing socks, I'm not doing it, I am simply not. But of course my husband's jumper will be the priority. So I'm really looking forward to the next few weeks of just being a little bit more mindful about my craft and about my Christmas. Try not to get too worked up about things. I did quite a lot of pre-Christmas shopping in September and October this year, which I'm really, really pleased about, because now I can just kind of go into it and enjoy it really. I want to be more organised with my wrapping. I want to make a lot more notes on what I've got for people, because last year I left it all to the last minute, didn't really know what I'd got for people, ended up with like way too much for the kids. It was overwhelming and ridiculous. We're really scaling it back this year for many, many reasons. I just want to be a little bit more present and in the moment and mindful when it comes to Christmas and craft at this time of year. I'd love to know what you've got planned for Christmas. Will you be gift knitting? Do you have any gift knitting patterns that are your go-tos that you absolutely love? And what are you looking forward to this Christmas? I nearly made it to the end of that without my battery running out, and I just cannot, I haven't got the time and the headspace to sit and wait for it to charge again, so I've just plugged my phone in. I was about to ask you guys what your Christmas intentions are this year. What are you looking forward to? I'm really looking forward to watching Christmas films with the kids. They've got a little bit more kind of headspace and tolerance for it now. Penny loves The Grinch. She's a little bit scared of him, but she keeps asking to watch it, bless her, and she goes, the Grinch. It just makes me laugh every time. So I'm just looking forward to coziness, chilling out, and having that mindful Christmas that I really, really want, because last year was wonderful and lovely, but I feel like I can really, this year is the year to really embrace Christmas for what it is, and not stress about presents, not stress about stuff, not stress about like, you know, all the different things and just be a little bit more present. Not like Christmas present. So with that, I'm gonna sign off from this little mishmash of a podcast. Like I said at the beginning, this is the last one for this year. I won't be doing a podcast in December because I will be doing Vlogmas, and then I tend to take a little bit of a break in January from filming. So for those of you that will be joining me for Vlogmas, I cannot wait to see you. I'm so excited. And for those of you who are not into Vlogmas, I will see you next year. That feels really weird to say. Wishing you all a happy holiday, whatever you celebrate, and I will see you in the new year, or I will see you next week.